Hello, this is the Literature Maestro, and welcome to the 5th episode of my Literature Analysis Mastery course. In this video, we will approach the Level 5 analysis, in which we add context to our analysis to show better understanding of the text in question. With that, let's begin. We human beings not only understand things through contrast, as we learned in Level 2 analysis, but also through context. For example, the action of writing has a completely different meaning when it is done at school compared to when it is done at one's deathbed. Context informs the deeper significance of anything that we encounter. This is exactly what we will now apply to our analysis. In order to provide a firm foundation to our level 1, 2, 3, and 4 analysis, we must provide a strong contextual background so that our inferences feel justified. As a rule of thumb, never assume that your reader knows the context of the quotes you provide. And since they may not know the context, your inferences and analysis as a whole can feel completely far-fetched or completely incomprehensible. As a result, you are responsible for providing the relevant context. For example, consider the following quote from one of our previous episodes. Anakin is gone. I am what remains. This quote is said during a fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. Darth Vader specifically says this after Obi-Wan has struck and damaged his mask, and apologizes by saying, "I'm sorry, Anakin." In response, Vader announces that Anakin is dead and that he, Vader, is what remains. From this context, the reader now has all of the following pieces of information before they even read your analysis. Number 1. Obi-Wan feels guilty about Anakin's transformation into Darth Vader, since he's the one who led to Anakin's downfall at Mustafar, back in Revenge of the Sith. Number 2. The persona of Anakin Skywalker has been hijacked by the persona of Darth Vader. Because of this context, the reader will now be able to appreciate the truly tragic nature of Anakin's transformation into Darth Vader, and how it has set him against all the values of his former self. Now, you may wonder, how much context should you provide? It's definitely possible to provide too much context or too little context. A good way to ensure sufficient context is to ask yourself if the amount of context you have provided provides all the essentials the reader would need to appreciate an authorial choice. This will always include, at the very least, who is speaking and to whom they're speaking and what was the topic of the conversation before the quote came about. As an example, let's consider the following quote. "The catcher in the rye. That's all I really want to be." To make sense of this quote, at the very least, the audience will need the following context. Speaker, Holden. Listener, Phoebe, Holden's sister. Prior to conversation. Number 1. Holden has snuck into his house and is conversing with Phoebe without his parents' knowledge. Number 2. Phoebe has just asked him what he wants to be when he grows up, and Holden has failed to come up with an earnest answer. Now let's move on to our template for the context. Our template for the context will look something like this. After/while/before plus previous narrative context plus last name of author plus shifts to plus current narrative context. Now, if we use our template for the context of the quote we just discussed, the context would look something like this. After Holden sneaks into his parents' apartment and finds Phoebe, his younger sister, they have a conversation in which Phoebe asks Holden what he wants to be when he grows up. After some non serious answers and an accusation by Phoebe that Holden doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up, he finally tells her that he wants to be a catcher in a field of rye with all these kids. Now let's tack on level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and level 5 analysis all at the same time. After Holden sneaks into his parents' apartment and finds Phoebe, his younger sister, they have a conversation in which Phoebe asks Holden what he wants to be when he grows up. After some non serious answers and an accusation by Phoebe that Holden doesn't know what he wants to be when he grows up, he finally tells her that he wants to be a catcher in a field of rye with all these kids. Salinger's use of the titular symbol of the catcher in the rye when he has Holden describe his future ambitions evokes the idea of protection. This suggests that Holden, far from harboring ambitions that are centered around typical professions, such as doctor or engineer, instead feels that the true purpose of his life lies in protecting children from falling into the abyss of adulthood. This has the effect of making the readers feel a sense of admiration for Holden, as we see him value the protection of children's innocence over seemingly every other pursuit. Through this use of symbolism, Salinger shows the readers how one's ambitions should often come from a noble inner drive rather than materialistic concerns or societal expectations. And with that, let's move on to our first practice problem. So we will resort to the same practice problems as the last episode. In the last episode, our first problem came from William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Love is a smoke made with the fume of sighs. And the literary choice we identified for this one was metaphor. More specifically, there were two metaphors. Love is a smoke, fume of sighs. After considering the associations that came to our mind when we think about the metaphor love is a smoke and the metaphor fume of sighs, we came up with the following level 1 analysis. Shakespeare's use of the metaphor love is a smoke, coupled with another metaphor fume of sighs, evokes the idea of blurriness and frustration. Then we moved on to our level 2 analysis, the broader inference, and it looked something like this. This suggests that Romeo, far from considering love to be a force that provides peace and tranquility, instead considers it to be a force that causes confusion and anxiety. Our level 3 analysis, in other words, the effect on reader, looked something like this. This has the effect of making the readers feel a sense of curiosity as they wonder whether Romeo's belief in the transient nature of love will be vindicated or proven false. Our level 4 analysis looked something like this. Ultimately, through this use of metaphor, Shakespeare shows the readers how people often view love pessimistically before they encounter it in their own lives. Now I'll give you a minute to consider what the level 5 analysis will be. Your time starts now. Now that the time is up, Let's look at what our level 5 analysis would look like. After Benvolio, Romeo's cousin, says that he weeps at Romeo's heart's oppression, a reference to Romeo's failed attempt at wooing Rosaline, Romeo notes how love is a smoke made with the fume of sighs. Now we move on to our second practice problem, which will be the same as the previous video. This one comes from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. To the well-organized mind, death is but the next great adventure. The authorial choice we identified in our previous episode was metaphor. Death is being compared to an adventure. And then we came up with the following level 1 analysis. Rowling's use of the metaphor death is the next great adventure evokes the idea of excitement and discovery. We followed that up with the level 2 analysis, which looked something like this. This suggests that Dumbledore, far from considering death to be something to be dreaded and avoided, instead sees it as something that should be looked forward to. Then we moved on to our level 3 analysis, the effect on reader, which looked something like this. This has the effect of making the readers feel a sense of admiration for Dumbledore as they witness his proactive and uplifting approach to death. Our level 4 analysis looked something like this. Ultimately, through this use of metaphor, Rowling shows the readers how a lack of fear of death is often a sign of hard earned wisdom. Now I'll give you a minute to consider what the level 5 analysis will be. Your time starts now. Now that the time is up, let's look at what our level 5 analysis would look like. Near the end of the novel, after Dumbledore tells Harry not to worry about Nicholas Flamel since for him, death is like going to bed after a very, very long day, he notes how death is but the next great adventure.